Hey all, welcome to Parker's Reefs. On today's episode, we're going to go out and visit Blake from Blake's Aquatics. This guy lives in my hometown and he actually works a block away from me, and he is an absolute freshwater nutter. And he tells me that he's got some content that could be really cool for marine viewers just to see what life's like on the dark side. So I figured, let's go have a look. We might learn a thing or two. All right, man, tell us all about it.
All right, well, yeah, first of all, thanks for making the massive journey down here. I'm pretty honoured to have you. So basically, quick summary is I've got 35 tanks and 5 ponds. I like these sort of casual DIY sort of ponds. They're just some olive barrels which you can get really cheap, cut in half, and you get about 210 litre tanks out of it. So in all of these ponds I've got either pseudomogils, which are in there, so honey blue eyes or pseudomogil mellis. We got spotted blue eyes here, pseudomogil gertrudae. We got some medaka rice fish, which are a fish that live in rice paddies in Japan, which is pretty cool. But the good thing about them are that they can go really cold. So for us down here in this part of the world, it gets really cold. So I wanted something that I could try outdoors all year round. So quite famously, Aquarium Co-op have had them outdoor frozen over and they still survived. So pretty incredible fish.
Where's the filtration, man? What's running these barrels?
Yeah, so mainly these 2 barrels have plants for filtration. So this water lettuce and other floating plants, and of course the canna lilies, but there are sponge filters in the other 3, and that's mainly just because I started and I was a bit nervous about how this whole thing was going to go together. So I did put sponge filters in here, but these are the most 2 recent ones that I've set up, and so far so good.
Just set and forget.
Yeah, easy as, and you do notice there's little microorganisms and stuff hopping along the water if you're going to be able to pick it up. Outdoor filming is really difficult art form with all the glare and whatnot, so yeah, no pressure there. But yeah, heaps of little bits of free floating algae and little organisms and stuff, so it's a really great way to raise fry. We were talking a bit earlier about some spawning mop things and stuff, and this is by far the best way to do it. I've lost a lot of rainbow fish fry over the journey by not being able to feed them. Basically, you have to feed them about 3 times a day, and what inevitably happened is within that first month or 2 you have to go somewhere for a weekend or whatever, and you lose them, unfortunately. But outside we got a constant food source, so it's really brilliant.
Amazing, man. No heaters, no external canisters, anything like that?
No, nothing, just
Plants and fish.
about as natural as you can get. And as you know, well, as people may or may not know, down this way we've had really cold temperature. Unusually for summer, it's been struggling to get above 15 or 16 degrees some days, so the water temperature is probably about 12 Celsius, that is. So quite cold, but remarkably everything's doing well and everything's breeding. So
they're full of life. They look crazy.
Yeah.
It honestly does inspire me to get a pond. I know a lot of my reefing buddies in New South Wales have got incredible koi ponds, and every time I see them I'm like drooling. Even without the koi, we can have this incredible life in our backyard.
Yeah, so I definitely recommend, if you were going to do that, the first thing is I would hook you up with some of these platinum rice fish here. They look really great from top down, which is important. If you're going to have a pond, you want to be able to see the fish first of all, and about as resilient as you can get, and prolific breeders. So really cool fish to get started if you're going to head that way.
Rock and roll. So that's before we've even got into the fish.
Yeah, we'll get in there at some point.
What else you got cooking?
Sure. Those are those platinums there, if you can see them. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, cool. Why they just sit there?
Yeah, and they're kind of cool. So with their eggs, they hold them under themselves in a little basket.
Yeah, right.
And then they just swim by the roots and stuff of the plants, and ones come off here and there and spread them around that way. So yeah, this is what is the fish room. It's a bit of a functional space, but I've created myself a bit of a galley sort of style aquarium here. This is my biggest aquarium at the moment that's set up. It's a 4x2x2 And we're housing some American cichlids here. Um, this is the Jack Dempsey, this blue fella here. We've got a flower horn and a jaguar cichlid with the red eyes there. Some geophagus. So geophagus means earth eater. So geo, earth, and phagus is to eat. So they just They swim around all day, creating these divots by just sifting out little things out of the sand. So really good fish if you want to keep your sand nice and clean.
Awesome, man.
And yeah, so with the fish room, I sort of try and keep a good variety. I got a little bit of collectoritis, and I just wanted to try a bit of everything. So you'll see that as we go through. There's just not necessarily a running theme or anything. Just try everything out, and then I've started to branch out into some more unique things lately.
Keep the tour going. What else you got?
Yeah, so I guess these ones, we got some different strains of guppies. These guys are, what are they called? They're koi tuxedo guppies. Unfortunately the lights give you a bit of a flickering effect, but koi tuxedo guppies, and they're breeding okay. So the thing with these strains of guppies is sometimes they breed really consistent, sometimes they don't. These ones are a little bit inconsistent, where you'll get the blues coming through in the tail. But if we move down, we've got some dragon guppies down here, and these are the most consistent fish that I've ever bred. They always come out looking exactly the same, and this is probably the third or fourth generation, so still going quite strong. With the females have the dark tail, and the males have got a nice red tail and sort of Dumbo ears, we call them, with the pectoral fins.
Yeah, cool.
Another type of guppy, moving across, these are German white tuxedo guppies.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, really quite stunning fish, and picked these up when Subscape closed down, so I was happy to get there for that. There might still be some platies in there, but I'm not sure if I took them out or not. That is the trouble when you have so many aquariums, you forget where everything is.
In track, yeah, you've got more tanks than I do, and I struggle to keep up with all mine, so you're doing a great job.
So up here, this is kind of like the big unique one, I guess, that most Australians probably haven't seen pea puffers in real life. Most people probably haven't seen pea puffers in real life, and that's because they're illegal for us to import. A lot of puffers are, pretty much all of them, except there's a native brackish puffer. So they're quite expensive, but they're on my bucket list, so I just pulled the trigger, and I'm stoked that I did. They're really personable fish, and they might be small, but they make up for it in personality and derpiness, and they just sort of float around being chubby. So,
and you say that they're an expensive fish, but like you're talking to a bit of a marine freak here.
Yeah.
We see like some pretty crazy fish out there. What's an expensive fish like this worth in the freshwater scene?
Yeah, so they vary at the moment, but roughly the price they go for at the moment is $200 each. So don't tell my wife, but
let's just count the number of holidays in this.
But no. I think it's a tricky one because I definitely want to breed them. That's another thing I guess we can touch on, freshwater versus saltwater. Not that we're competing or anything like that, but one thing that I really enjoy about this side is that you can have an option to breed a lot of things. So I definitely want to breed these guys, and that was the trouble when you got staring down the barrel of a bit of a hefty bill. And you sort of like, I need enough to make sure that I've got males and females and a viable pair and all that, but I don't want to, break the bank either. So I landed on 4, and I think judging at the size they are now, that I've got 2 females and 2 males, luckily. So we'll see how it goes.
So in 6 months' time, this will be Victoria's supply of pea puffers.
Hopefully. If we move across, these are kind of like my breeder tanks, I suppose. They're all attempted breeder tanks, but in here, this top row houses mostly Epistogrammus, so dwarf cichlid from South America. So we've got McMaster in here, commonly mislabeled as Viagita. If you are not necessarily that familiar with the freshwater side of things, you might see in a shop a Pistogramma viagita, but in Australia they're pretty much all McMasteri, so something to be aware of. In here we've got Cacatoides. You can probably see why they're called the cockatoo cichlid, because especially the males, which I've summoned one up to the front there, he gets quite a nice sort of fiery looking finnage, and the sort of plumage that's common with cockatoos, a native Australian bird.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and they're quite easy to breed. All of these next four that I've sort of run through, you just need to provide a few caves for them, and they'll make short work of all the rest of it. So these ones next door are a bit less natural looking in terms of Epistogrammas, but they've been line bred to appear this way. They're called Epistogramma agassizii fire golds, but they're not behaving at the moment, so they're hiding.
You tell us there's fish in there, we'll believe you.
Yeah, I promise. Something that is behaving are these Epistogramma panduro. This one up the front, you'll see that he's got a bit of a sky blue sort of sheen to the body. That is an indicator that he's a male. The females, which there are two of them in there somewhere, but they have a much more yellow body and a black underbelly, so quite different looking. But yeah, it's good to have a bit of sexual dimorphism to make sure that you get one of each if you want to breed them. Definitely. And yeah, this one here is pretty exciting. This is a Saratoga Lycardi.
Yeah, that's right. The guy hiding at the back there.
I wouldn't recommend keeping them in a 2-foot tank, but just quarantining this guy at the moment.
Yeah, you were saying earlier you've had this fish for a long time now?
Yeah, absolutely ages. It's got to be, it's hard to think back this far, but I reckon I've had him about 2 hours, so...
He's still settling in.
Yeah, so... but he's going to be an absolute monster. I recommend with these guys you need to have actually the width, because they get quite big, so it's a bit cruel I find sometimes if they can't turn around. So we mentioned earlier I've got a 4x3 ready to go for that guy. Eventually I'll probably upgrade him to a 6x3 if I can get that one approved, so we'll see.
Fair enough. Now over your shoulder there we see something that looks familiar, the blue glow from what viewers are used to seeing on my channel, and this is your marine tank here. This is your first marine tank?
Yep, absolutely. It's been a bit of a learning experience, but I think it's pretty cool. I've definitely enjoyed recent times, and you'll know the names better than I will probably, but this coral here has really started to take off, and I'm stoked to sort of see that.
You've got you got Xenia here, the pink one that will sort of like pulse away. You've got the green fluffy morphs out the back there.
Yep.
You've got some these are a green star polyp along the front. I love the way that being a freshwater guy, you've managed to acclimate some freshwater fish into your marine tank. You've got a couple of fungias down here, the traditional orange and green combo. Got some zoanthids up there that look like eagle eyes. Another type of zoanthid. You got the fluffy green morphs. You got a green hammer up the back there, and what looks like a cool bubble coral.
Yeah.
So nice little mix there.
That's interesting that you say that that's a zoanthid, because I always thought it was a palithoa, and I was a bit concerned because I've heard of palitoxin and all that, and I know that zoanthids do sometimes have palitoxin as well, but I was a bit concerned about that when I've been moving it around and stuff. So
yeah, between you and I wouldn't go cutting them up and snorting them. But to be honest, you with any coral, play it safe. Wear protective goggles if you're going to cut them up or do something, or if you do handle them, wash your hands before you rub your eyes.
Okay.
Common sense will keep you safe.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to cancel my Saturday night plans now. So, and then the other thing that maybe people have picked up as a bit of a theme is I'm right into the planted tanks and stuff like that. These two here are sort of my main ones that I have going. They are what I guess some people would classify as high tech. We've got some CO2 injection happening. These lights are from Make My LED, which is a Queensland company, which I thought was good to support them. But found that since picking those up, I've really started to see some reds coming through and stuff like that, which which is pretty good.
As a freshwater guy, do you get people coming in and thinking that those plants are fake?
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty common because basically with the breeding side of stuff, I do do a bit of gum tree stuff, and a lot of people say, oh, geez, these are some nice fake plants, or are they silk or what? But yeah.
It's not just marine guys with corals, then we get like friends and family come over to our tanks and go, oh, I like your fake corals. And you're like, they're real.
Yeah, if they were fake, they would be about 1/10 of the price, and work.
I mean, I can, for an untrained eye, I can see why people would confuse these for fake because, man, they are so vibrant.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful and variety of leaf structures and growth patterns and really cool setup.
Yeah, and I guess the reason that I like plants is because when you have 35 tanks, it makes it a lot cheaper to just grow the plants and move them everywhere than buy 2,000 silk plant decorations. So apart from that, it's pretty rewarding. I'm not the type that gets out in the rose garden or anything on the weekend, but when you see, for example, this rotala here, in a day I could cut that in half and probably not a day, but in a week it would be back up to that point. Just that sort of speed. It's a catch-22 sometimes because basically something that grows that fast also can die that fast. So you've got to be a bit mindful of things, but for the most part they grow real quick and they're pretty straightforward.
When you say high-tech tank, you mentioned you've got the Make My LED lights on there. You're running CO2 injection. Yeah,
so it's a little bit hard to see, but basically, how am I going to show this? So there's a CO2 diffuser.
Yeah, right.
You could probably see it from the front, maybe.
Just over near the heater there.
Yeah, so that puts in
see the bubbles coming out.
Puts in CO2, and actually I've got the CO2 bottle. It has a splitter. So that goes into 3 tanks. This tank here, this 4 foot, and that 3 foot that's behind.
Yep.
So I can't remember exactly the wattage on this light, but I think they're 3 watt LEDs. So yeah, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but definitely it's probably like a lot more wattage pumping in than
They're a slick looking unit though. They're Australian made. Nice.
Yeah, they do get a little bit hot and stuff, but they come with a little remote so you can fully dim them and all that.
Yeah, right.
Not quite the programmability of some marine lights, like for example that one, but really really cool little light, and it's pretty good to support a Queenslander, I suppose.
Definitely. Now I noticed I can see over here, and this is something that a lot of reef keepers will be familiar with, and that's dosing supplements.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about what sort of supplements or chemicals you dose into your freshwater tanks, particularly these planted ones?
Yeah, sure. So another Queensland company, Liverpool Creek Aquariums, they've got pretty highly renowned fertilizer. So I like to dose that. He'll probably hate me because that's his old label, but no, his customer service is really top notch. So Jeff from Liverpool Creek, he always does a good thing. So the main thing to remember with the fertilizers is, and I ran into this early days as well, is the little bonus pump is not the go. You'll end up with a fair bit of algae and stuff like that. So I just stuck to the label, and it's a bit of a less is more sort of thing. So like with anything, like with feeding food to fish, I suppose, it's better to feed a third of a portion 3 times a day than sort of 1.5 portions at once. So same sort of thing.
Look at the flower. That's the leaves. It's got a blue LED on it. I thought it was blue flower.
But there is a flower in this tank. You can see it's starting to come up here.
Oh, cool.
So basically, if you want to propagate these, you can get 2 of these flowers, a little toothbrush, and just sort of rub it up and down, and then collect the seed that way, and you'll have some flowers. So.
No kidding.
Oh, there's a bit of a better one. This has got a little bit of white. They've opened up a bit more. If we can take the pearlweed off. You see that?
So you literally just rub their parts up against each other.
Yeah. Usually I try and buy them a drink first. But But yeah, so that's how it goes.
And I noticed on the tank down here you're running a Inkbird temp controller. This tank running at 27.1.
Yeah, so that's a little bit warmer than the other tanks purely because of the discus.
Okay.
There are 6 discus in here. These guys are the bigger ones.
Yep.
They're called blue turquoise discus. But yeah, they like a bit of a warmer temperature. However, once again, it's a bit of a balance because the plants, not so much.
Okay.
If it was just a bare tank, I'd probably have it in the 30s. But if it was just a planted tank, I'd probably have it at 25. So I've met it in the middle and run the Inkbird here because discus yeah, I've got Inkbirds on my 2 most expensive tanks really. So the pea puffers and the discus. And also I thought it was kind of funny, and I can disclose this now because we've mentioned it, but $800 worth of fish and a $10 Kmart heater. So I thought I would put the Inkbird on that one just in case.
Slashed out on some temperature control.
Yeah.
Classic.
But yeah, so these larger fish, rainbow fish, pretty cool little fish. They kind of, most people are aware of tetras, and I just sort of liken them to a large tetra with in terms of their activity and everything like that. They're called rainbow fish because they, throughout the day, can show all the colours of the rainbow.
Wow.
Usually at the very first light, like sunrise, that's when they come into full colour and like to sort of show off and play around and that sort of thing. So if you keep rainbow fish and you don't get home until 6 p.m, I would recommend get your lights turning on at 6 p.m. so you get to see them in full form, and then they can sleep all day while you're at work. Yeah, so these red ones here, they're Australian native. They're from Mount Poverty in Queensland, and I picked those up at the Angfa auction. I'm not affiliated or anything, but I love to pump up the tyres of Angfa. I think they're a really great organisation. Stands for the Australian New Guinea Fishers Association, and single-handedly they have ensured the survival of one of these species of rainbow fish. So definitely worth the Google search if you've got nothing else on for your weekend.
Sure, we'll get a shout out on the link.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, and then next door we've got a bit of an African cichlid community. African cichlids, like rockwork, they don't mix well with plants, so this is one of the rare non-planted tanks. However, I've attempted to put some in, but they've given it quite the haircut. And these guys are pretty renowned for being a bit brutish, so yeah, you don't want to mix them with anything else. But maybe unique to fish, these guys are mouth brooders, which means that the female will hold the eggs in the mouth until they hatch, and then she'll spit them out, which is pretty cool to see. And a couple of times, like we'll see there's a few generations of babies in here, I've actually just netted the female, opened the mouth gently, and shake the babies out, and yeah, we've got some more fish.
Unbelievable, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So tell us, what's the future plans for your fish room, for Blake's Aquatics YouTube channel? Where are things headed?
Yeah, so I've kind of maxed out, I think, what we can do in here at the moment, but sometime this year I'll be most likely moving house, so that'll be fun, about as fun as it will seem. But I've got a big plan, mainly, so I mentioned there's a 4x3 outside, and I really want to create a big island in the centre of whatever my next iteration of a fish room looks like, where we have the 4x2 next to the 4x3. We just sort of create a big island with immersed grown plants and all this timber and everything, all this woodwork and everything. And yeah, we'll see if that ends up happening. But I've got some ideas.
Nice.
We'll see how they come out.
What about the YouTube channel, man? Blake's Aquatics. You were telling me earlier you've got a like an Ask Blake segment coming up where you're like going to answer people's questions live while you're streaming.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to be approached by aquariumspareparts.com.au, and what excited me there was they didn't really want me to shove products down people's throats and stuff like that, which can be the case at times. What they were really interested in was promoting the education and that side of things. So on their website they've set up a Ask Blake section in replacement of, they used to have blog posts. So yeah, you can definitely go to that website and ask any question. I try to respond within a couple of hours, like that day basically, and then I'll collate the best 10 every week into a video, so you might get to see yourself featured on the channel. And yeah, I was really excited to sort of have a channel open up where lots of people can test out my knowledge and we can do a bit of learning together.
Man, as someone who strangely went into marine side without even really dabbling in freshwater side, and now kind of doing it backwards and trying to stick my big toe into a freshwater tank, a channel like that's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to spamming you with lots of questions. Also learning from the questions that other people ask as well. So
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Try not to troll me too much. That's all right.
No. Even if it seems like I'm trolling, I swear they'll be honest questions. I just will not know.
Yeah. No, I'm excited about it, and yeah, I think it's. I know how much things I had to sort of consume in terms of YouTube videos, Google searches, and that sort of thing prior to getting even my first tank. So yeah, I'm happy to help people out in that space if I can.
Awesome.
Maybe we'll have a look on this side.
Yeah, man.
So that's my baby brine shrimp hatchery.
Oh yeah, tell us about that, because that's going to be cool.
So yeah, just every day. This is not a beer. This is another culture, which I'll talk about shortly. So every day I just hatch baby brine shrimp to feed the fish, and yeah, I find it's good in two ways. First of all, the baby fish take to it like anything, which is amazing. But also, if I've got a pair of fish that they seem a bit complacent and stuff like that, put a bit of baby brine, and then I think them knowing there's available food source for babies really helps them to sort of get in the swing of things. So it's a bit of a DIY sort of setup, I suppose, just some old soft drink bottles, and I just bought the acrylic stand online. So
That's
yeah,
a trick well, man. That's awesome.
yeah, but I'm too lazy to drain it out, so that's why I've got my trusty turkey baster here, and I don't bother separating out the salt water. I just put it in. I mean, I feel like the minerals will be okay for the fish.
Hey, the good news is I found my source of baby brine now, so happy day.
Yeah. I guess I should cover what the beer is. Okay, so these are vinegar eels, and the way that these are cultured is the bottom half is apple cider vinegar. We put some slices of apple in, and then we get some worms. So the worms like the low acidic water, and also they see the slice of apple as a food source when it decomposes. So the convenient thing about these is that they go up to the surface to breathe. So that's why I've got the sponge there, and then the sponge allows me to put fresh water on the top.
Yep.
Then they go up through that to breathe oxygen from the surface and get stuck there. And then you just siphon them out, and they're really great for top dwelling fish, because sometimes with fry that are top dwellers, it's really hard to put food in and it goes straight past them and they never eat it. So vinegar eels, great option for those sort of cases.
It's hardcore.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of people think I'm just out here drinking beer all the time, but
Yeah, this cool little planted tank you've got going on here with plants growing up out of the water.
yeah, once again, I think this one's really hard to film, but this is sort of a bit of an immersed grown setup in terms of aquatic plants. You can actually grow a lot of them above water. So for example, this is an aquatic plant here. This is Hygrophila polysperma, but it's just taken off above water. And the reason for that is because we talk about CO2 injection. Well, the world is an unlimited source of CO2. So once the leaves breach the water surface, they've basically got full-on CO2 all the time. So
No one's ever explained that to me. That makes perfect sense.
yeah. So yeah, that's a really good way to quickly grow a lot of plants, especially. Like you'll notice a lot of empty pots and stuff like that in my tanks, and that's mainly because I just haven't grown them fast enough to keep up. So in here we've got some fish that are basically ones that I've bred out and stopped breeding, so they're this is like a sale tank, if you will. So yeah, I've got some golden wonder killifish at the top, they're top dwellers. Got some platies, which are sort of the bolder sort of coloured fish. And yeah, I guess for the saltwater audience, platies are live bearers, so they don't have eggs or anything like that. They just birth live babies, which is really great for beginners because you don't have to have all those hassles of eggs getting fungusy and trying to feed these tiny little trying to feed these tiny little fry. So they they just have babies that are pretty good size and pretty much eat anything. So really great beginner fish.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then I guess we touched on the bedders, but this is the breeder male down here. Where's he gone? Oh, he's there. Sneaky bugger.
Oh, there he is. What a beast.
Yeah, so he does look a bit shredded up, and that's because of the breeding process. They are not called fighting fish for nothing, even when they're in the throes of passion. But yeah, he's the dad for all these fish, and I find it quite interesting.
He's
like,
a big boy.
Yeah, and that's the mum there. So she's the one that's the guilty party. But I find it quite interesting. I've bred 2 red fish together, and you get this sort of powder blue colour and all these other colours. So the fighting fish obviously have quite diverse genetics, which is interesting when you look at the breeding side of stuff.
For sure.
And this is sort of another planted tank that I'm getting set up. So yeah, these pots I find really good because you can just quickly pick them up and you've basically got a filter ready to go because of all the bacteria and all that's growing on the gravel and all that. So yeah, pretty happy with how this is coming up. You might not have seen these fish before either, but they're really fast and really skittish. So good luck with that B-roll. But yeah, they're called emerald rasboras. They're actually not a rasbora; they're a danio. They're from Myanmar, but I just think they're a really, really exquisite fish. They get some nice dark striations down the body, and yeah, I think they're really, really cool. So I was happy to pick those up. Once again, sort of something that's pretty unique. You're not going to see that down at big box stores or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then here is my little.
This is the office.
Yeah, so this is my little live streaming setup. I'm doing live streams every Thursday at the moment. Really casual. We just sort of have guests on, usually other people from the fish keeping community, and yeah, I usually have sort of a broad overarching topic, but then it inevitably falls into just generally talking nonsense about fish. So yeah, I'm finding it really fun. Yeah, if you got nothing to do on a Thursday, yeah, pop in and yeah, it'd be good to have you.
Send people over to your channel and they can subscribe, and then they'll get the notifications for when the videos come out. I see you schedule them so people know when they're coming up.
Yeah. No, thanks. I appreciate it. So yeah, I guess, do you want to see the CO2 bottle maybe? Or it's
sure.
pretty hard to see, but I can move this out of the way.
That's all good. I can see it from there. It's all good.
So yeah, it's just a CO2 bottle that's from Keg King. So actually a home brewing company.
Yep.
2.6 kilos of CO2. That'll last me about 6 months, even putting it in 3 tanks. So really cheap. It might be $20 to refill it. So yeah, definitely. The only thing is sort of the upfront cost of buying the bottle and the regulator, but after that it's really inexpensive. So yeah, if I had all that sort of infrastructure, I'd have CO2 in all these tanks. It's just such a dramatic difference growing plants, because so the main structure of humans is water. Well, the main structure of plants is carbon. So that's why we put CO2 in to sort of create carbon content, which they use to build their skeletons, if you will. So
Cool.
yeah, so there you go.
Simple as that. It's almost like the alkalinity of the freshwater. Well,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, thanks a lot for popping by. I hope I had something that you found interesting or open your eyes a little bit maybe to the freshwater side of things. Definitely, if you got a chance or if you got any questions, drop it in the Ask Blake section of aquariumspareparts.com.au. If you like what I'm putting out, definitely check out my channel if you can, Blake's Aquatics, and yeah, hopefully be seeing you around sometime soon.
Alright guys, that's about all we've got time for today. I hope you've enjoyed that video as much as I did. It is absolutely mind-blowing seeing things from the other side of the salinity spectrum, and I mean, I guess I knew there was such depth to freshwater, but I never knew there was that much depth, and seeing some of the stuff around the breeding of fish is really inspirational. So I wanted to learn more about freshwater as a result of Underwater Pet Expo, and I'm really excited to delve into this world a little bit further. Don't worry, this channel will still be Parker's Reefs, but I am going to be dabbling with a little bit of freshwater stuff in future. So you'll be able to see a journey from a marine keeper's perspective about how we dabble into some freshwater stuff in some videos to come. And I'm really hoping, and I'm shouting out to you here, Blake, that I might be able to get your help in setting up the tank and picking some suitable livestock. So till next time, guys, be sure to jump over to Blake's Aquatics if you're interested in the freshwater scene. Give him a subscribe and a like, and check out his videos because he's a really nice guy, and we've all got to help each other in this fish keeping community. So anyway, guys, I'll stop rambling. I'll see you soon. Hopefully catch you at Underwater Pet Expo this weekend in Melbourne. Cheers, guys. Bye.